He's here now, Jonathan Tobin, editor-in-chief of the Jewish News Syndicate. Thank you for being here. I want to start with what we were seeing at the northern border in Israel with Lebanon, and there's talks of possible retaliation after the death of that Hamas leader in Beirut. What is the level of concern right now, and what are you hearing?
Well, obviously, the level of concern about threats from Lebanon, as far as Israel is concerned, is always high. And the fact that, tens of thousands of people or more have been forced to leave their homes, as you rightly pointed out, from northern Israel, in addition to the hundreds of thousands in southern Israel, is a real problem. And yet, the fear when this war began with the Hamas attack on October 7th was that it would be a two-front war and that Hezbollah would chime in to help Hamas because that's in Iran's interest, and Hezbollah basically is an auxiliary of Iran. That didn't happen. Hezbollah controls Lebanon, but that control could be put into question if they join a war and Lebanon is devastated, as it inevitably would if Hezbollah decides to go on a full-scale war with Israel. They could do great damage to Israel with all of their, hundreds of thousands of rockets they possess. But Lebanon would suffer, and that would mean that Hezbollah might not control Lebanon anymore, and Iran prizes that control. So I don't want to sound an optimistic note because this is very serious and always dangerous. But if Hezbollah and Iran have not attacked Israel directly yet in the 3 months since October 7th, I think the odds are they won't. Yeah. Because the time to do it was when Hamas still had major forces in the field, not when they're cornered in southern Gaza. I think just strategically that the boat has sailed on a general war. What Iran is trying to do with its Houthi auxiliaries attacking naval shipping and with Hezbollah occasionally shooting rockets, they're trying to get attention. They're trying to, pose as being relevant. But they did not join this war. And my gut tells me they're not going to do so now. I mean, I could be wrong. We don't know. It's hard to predict the way the mullahs in Tehran think. But so far, they've been very cautious because they know the consequences of starting another front with Israel would be far more terrible for them and their allies than it would be for Israel.
I hope you're right for the sake of Israel and the region and world as a whole. We don't want to see it escalate. Meantime, the families of the remaining hostages, Jonathan, are concerned that the death of that top Hamas leader, al-Awari, sets the talks backwards, that bringing their loved ones home, the door may be closing. What's the update on those discussions right now, if there is one at all?
Well, I think Israel has tried to maintain talks via, these bad actors in Qatar who have contacts with Hamas. But, the tension between the interests of the families and the interests of the nation as a whole in Israel, the families of the kidnapping victims, there's always been that tension. And, people in Israel want both. They want to get the hostages back desperately, but they know they can't let Hamas win this war. And the idea that Hamas operatives, Hamas leaders, people who help plan the atrocities of October 7th, will have immunity anywhere in the world, that's a non-starter. All of Hamas's top leadership, they signed their own death warrants. Sooner or later, Israel will catch up with them. These are international criminals. There's no safe haven for them in Lebanon. And I think as much as I'm sure it's very difficult for Israel's government, as it's true in any democratic government. We've done the same thing here in the United States. When there are hostages involved, it's hard not to listen to the pleas of their families to basically do anything to get their family members back. And we understand that. I mean, we all would do that in their position. But Netanyahu, Prime Minister Netanyahu, has an obligation to see this war to a close, to defeat Hamas totally. And he'll do a partial deal with Hamas to get hostages out. But, frankly, there are no signs of life about these hostages. The Red Cross has made no efforts to see them, and Hamas has not allowed them, has not produced any proof that they're still alive. So I think the onus is on Hamas. The suffering in Gaza remains totally the responsibility of these terrorists who are fighting to the last Palestinian while they sit in their tunnels. And Israel's methodically rooting them out. It will, as the report earlier said, take months to finish this job, but sooner or later, their doom is already sealed.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.